One of the more interesting news themes of the last few years to me is the right of a business to refuse service. We've seen various forms of this story many times over. Most notably, we all recall the cake scenarios. A Christian baker refuses to bake a cake for a gay wedding. One such case has already been argued before the Supreme Court and is pending decision. That decision should actually be arriving soon. It's also happened in reverse. Recall the gay Seattle coffee shop owner who refused to serve Christian pro-life activists. There have also been several cases of restaurants or coffee shops refusing to serve police officers. Of course, recently we had the high-profile case of that Starbucks manager in Philadelphia refusing to let two men use the bathroom because they didn't buy anything. But that's not even the best Starbucks case as of late. 2 months ago, an Arizona teenager was refused service at a Starbucks drive-thru because she was on horseback. After social media pressure, that Starbucks caved and gave the equestrian enthusiast a second chance. And there's the example that's near and dear to my heart. Eagles players denied service by Minneapolis restaurants at the Super Bowl because, of course, the Eagles embarrassed the Vikings in the NFC Championship the week prior. All of these cases are similar in theme. A business owner declining to do business with a certain person or a certain demographic, though the reasons do vary. Maybe it's because I think you're a jerk as an individual. Maybe it's because you believe something I find distasteful. Maybe it's because you're part of a group with whom I don't wish to associate generally. That variability often makes it difficult for people to take sides on these stories in consistent fashion. But I think it's crucial that we do. We ought to form our opinions on these stories based on principle, not based on people. Otherwise, you're just deciding who's right based on who you like more. And you end up saying that the Christian bakeries must serve gay weddings, but the gay coffee shop owner doesn't have to serve the outspoken Christian activists if he doesn't want to. Well, this week we get another test case with which to think about these principles, this time out of New York City. A judge there says bars are allowed to throw out Trump supporters. The story involves Philadelphia accountant Greg Piatek, a man bounced from a West Village bar on Inauguration Day in January 2017 for wearing a Make America Great Again cap. According to the suit, the staff at the bar told the man, quote, "Anyone who supports Trump or believes what you believe is not welcome here, and you need to leave right now because we don't serve you." The man was booted and later chose to sue in Manhattan Supreme Court, alleging the incident offended his sense of being an American, claiming this was a violation of both New York State and New York City law prohibiting public accommodation from discriminating against people based on your usual considerations, race, gender, sexual orientation, and so forth. But here's where the case gets weird. The law in New York State and City doesn't actually protect political beliefs from discrimination, only creed. In both cases, creed is generally interpreted to mean religion, and so the crux of this case, at least as the law is written, centers not around whether a business has a right to refuse service based on your beliefs, but whether making America great again counts as a religion. The man's lawyer argued he wore the hat because he was visiting the 9/11 memorial that day. He was paying spiritual tribute to the victims of 9/11, and the MAGA hat was part of his spiritual belief. The judge challenged, asking how many members belong to this spiritual program, and the man's attorney was cornered into acknowledging this is a creed of one. Unsatisfied the man was discriminated against for religious reasons, the judge ruled he failed to state any faith-based principle to which the hat relates. Therefore, the judge dismissed the case, meaning the bar was within its rights to refuse to serve this man. And on that conclusion, I agree. I think that any transaction should be voluntary. If one party to the transaction doesn't agree, that transaction shouldn't be forced by the state. And we'll let the market sort out bad actors who don't treat their customers fairly. So I agree with this judge's conclusion that the bar acted within its rights in refusing to serve this man, but I hate the way the judge reached that conclusion. Or maybe more accurately, I hate the law as it's currently written. To my layman eyes, it looks like this judge followed the law as it currently stands. But the way the law is written, the reasoning on which it is based, creates problems, and there are at least two. First, the standard the law creates is inherently subjective, as we can see in this case. You can't discriminate based on religion. Okay. Well, what counts as a religion? And second, it's a standard that has no philosophical coherence. Why do we protect some characteristics from discrimination, but not others? To the first point, what are the objective criteria we're going to use to decide what counts as a religion and what doesn't? And why should the final say about the legitimacy of a person's worldview rest with a judge or with the state? Think about the tests the judge applied in this case. How many members does your religion have? Why is that important? And what is the threshold? Is it not possible for a religion to have one member? And if not, how does a new religion ever get started? The judge notes that creed is distinct from political affiliation, citing prior New York case law. But why are they necessarily distinct? In much of the Islamic world, for example, faith and politics are one and the same. The judge says the man's case was devoid of any spiritual aspirations or convictions. Except it wasn't. The man says his MAGA hat is part of his spiritual connection with 9/11 victims. It's just you, the judge, don't buy that view as legitimate, and that's the problem. It's his set of beliefs, not yours and not the state's. To the second point, there is no philosophical consistency or coherence in why the state chooses to protect certain characteristics from discrimination, but not others. Is it the state's view that businesses shouldn't discriminate against immutable characteristics? Then why is religion relevant? It's mutable. Just like your politics or any other belief system you may have, you can change your mind at any time. Is it the state's view that all perspectives and worldviews deserve respect and accommodation? If so, why is it only religion that gets protection and not politics? Why is it unjust to discriminate against a man for his Christian faith, but it's just to discriminate against him for his conservative politics? There is no sound reasoning to explain that perspective, and that's why the entire framework on which we are deciding these cases is insufficient. The bar was within its rights to kick out MAGA hat guy for the simple reason that MAGA hat guy is not entitled to the property or labor of the bar. Nobody but the bar owns that property and labor, and the bar should only exchange that property and labor when both parties agree to the transaction. And if the bar abuses that right, if the bar mistreats customers or refuses to serve people for bigoted reasons, then we as customers get to exercise our right of refusal in return. And the bar loses money. That money instead goes to competitors who will survive, while this bar will not. And you may not like that perspective because, yes, that perspective enables a business to discriminate against customers for any reason, including unjust reasons. But consider these 2 points. First, it protects everyone's freedom equally. All parties are free to refuse exchanges and associations to which they do not agree. And second, it's consistent. I don't care what your reasons for refusing an exchange or an association are, because your property and your labor and your associations are your rights, not mine, and not the state's. You shouldn't have to convince me or the state that your perspective is a legitimate religion. All that's necessary is to say my beliefs are my beliefs, and if you don't like them, you can leave me alone. And a just society and a just legal system would do just that. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.